Hey, it's Daniel Grissom, or Mr. G as the students often call me, here at Kids Cartoon Academy, and today you're going to make an awesome Valentine's Day Mario themed tutorial. In the process, you're going to learn these super helpful skills. First, you're going to learn how to use symmetry to get the right proportions, how to do that easily and quickly when you're drawing. You're also going to learn the basic shapes method, starting with basic shapes all the way to final details, constructing your characters just like the pros do. And then lastly, if you'd like to color along with me, you are going to learn how to make your art pop off the page and look super 3D like this. I'll show you how I color, shade, and add highlights with alcohol markers. Of course, you're welcome to color however you like, because I always encourage you to make it your own. Can't wait to see what you make. Let's get started. Let's begin our toad Cupid by drawing his head as a U shape in the middle of our page and slightly above, tilted towards the left, like this wide U shape. Now I'm sketching very lightly, very loosely. One thing that might help you do that is hold your pencil up a little higher than you usually do, and that helps you not grip it quite so hard. But if you're not used to that, try it out. And if it's too difficult, don't worry about it. That's something you can develop over time if you like. The reason it's so helpful to sketch very lightly and loosely as I'm putting this toad hat on, or the rest of his head, is because if I draw lightly and loosely, I can come in and easily erase. But if I draw real dark, then it's going to make it harder to erase. And artists really love to erase. The best artists erase all the time, and there's nothing wrong with that. Starting over, or just living with your mistakes too. So this doesn't need to be perfect. I got some rough little lines there, that's fine. Especially in the sketch stage, I'm just laying down the big basic shapes to start. And I don't have to worry about any of these lines looking nice or smooth until the very end, when I might go over with an outline or decide to color. So very sketchy at this point. There are a few things you want to check. I put the top of his little belly here, and then I'm going to come down here and put the rest of his little toga, I think is what this is called. Cupid's little tunic or outfit here, rather. Now, you can see this is a little bit to the right, so this bulges out. It's because he's got a belt, and so it bulges above the belt a little bit. And we could go ahead and put a little tie there if we like. Now, while we're at it, we could put some little strings. A couple of things to notice here is that the right side, we want it to be the same as the left side here. And so you can sort of just measure with your fingers, or just eyeball it, just estimate. Is it about the same size from here to here as it is from here to here? And you want it to be roughly the same size there. Now we're going to put the shoes, which are these big round shapes. Now this one's going to be a little bit smaller than this one, because this one's on the left is closer towards us. And it's about like an egg shape. And this is just the bottom of that egg shape. A little further back, his knee is kicked back. Well, Toad doesn't really have knees, but his foot is kicked back. Now we can go ahead and put the arms. Now this is going to be a lot of overlapping lines. And so we're going to be erasing as we go because we're going to have arms in front of his chin and things like that. And so it might get a little tricky. So just hang in there and watch what lines I erase if the lines start to get too difficult for you to keep track of. So now I'm going to draw a skinny oval, but look at how it gets a lot skinnier on the left side next to the edge of that face, but it doesn't quite cross it there. Next, we're going to come right on the edge and add a little finger right there. And you want it to be on the top of that oval. And this is what I was saying, where these lines are going to start to overlap. So to be able to picture what's in front and what's behind, it's helpful to erase some lines that are underneath that arm. This comes down further and round that off. Make that whole arm smooth. And now we have him with one arm, which is holding onto the arrow. And let's do the other arm, which is going to be straight and about the same thickness as this one. So not too much thinner or thicker, about the same size. And it's a little bit longer is all. So I'm going to bring this out just a tad. And then for now, let's just put a very light circle for the hand. Very light. We'll put some fingers in there later. Now we can put the wings here. So we got this cool pose. We're going to put some wings, some sleeves, a bow, and an arrow. So let's come right behind here. And we're going to do a bunch of curves to just connect the wings. This biggest curve is up at the top, and then some smaller ones down here as you get closer towards the back. Now we're going to make the wing on the left, and to get it symmetrical, you can measure the wing on the right. You can do this with anything when you're trying to get something symmetrical and you want it the right length. Measure it with your fingers and then bring it over here and put a dot where your thumb was. And then that shows you how far something should be to match the one we just drew. So if I bring this wing, it's got the same type of curve, out to that dot, then it should be about the same length. Then we can do the same thing with the width. Put a dot there. Now here's another tip. We want to create this swoop. So very lightly, I'm going to do this guideline that connects the end of the wing to the base where it connects behind his back. And now I've got it the same width. The reason I do the guideline is because now I don't have to think about where these curves are going. I'm just putting them on the guideline. All I have to do is just think about their shape getting smaller and smaller, just like they did over here on the previous side. So using guidelines that line things up and using your fingers to create the measurements. Two helpful, really helpful tips to get things exactly where you want them. That works really well when you're drawing anything that would line up. You put a guideline to where it goes, then you can do all the individual pieces on top of that. And then you could erase the guideline now, or usually what I do is I actually just wait until the end, and I'll erase the lines that I don't need in the very end. So now we've got some cool looking wings. Let's create the bow and arrow. We're going to put, it's going to be a fun curvy shape here. So we're going to put a swoop there right through that circle hand. Then we're going to swoop out and then back in and then down. We're going to do the same thing up here. Out, back in, up. Now, same thing like we did with the wings. We want to make sure it's symmetrical. And I think I might have done the top too big. How can I check? Measure with your fingers. Yeah, I did the top way too big. This goes way above where my finger is. See, this is how long the bottom is, so the top should be the same height, and it goes extra long. So let's erase the top, use that dot method, and try again. This is the bottom of the bow, so this will need to be the top of the bow. So let's adjust our little swoopy, curvy shape. And now we've got a much better looking symmetrical bow. Right there. And then we can just do 2 strings straight to the hand. 1, try to keep them really thin if you can, and straight. If you want to use a ruler, you can. And then 2. And now we've got a cool bow. Now, let's put the arrow. Now, one thing that you might need to do here is this arm really needs to be straight with this arm. In fact, you should be able to line them up like that, because the arrow's got to connect this hand to that hand. And so that's pretty important. And so if you need to, just move this arm up or down if you need to. Basically, you should be able to draw a straight line of an arrow that goes right below that little finger and cuts straight through that hand. Then we can put a little heart on it. An arrowhead in the shape of a heart. It might be fun. Now, let's put the final details on it. We got all our big basic shapes. We got our most important secondary shapes. And now we can just adjust it by putting all of our details on it. So I'm going to put one finger here with an oval, another one here, and another one there. A little smaller one for the pinky. And then for this thumb, I'm just going to do half of an oval. And I'm going to drop that curve down a little bit. So again, that was 1, 2, 3 little ovals. Then half of an oval there. We had a circle that was there first, but that was just a guideline or a guide shape. So erase the parts of the circle that we don't need anymore. And now we've got a nice hand wrapped around this bow. And we could do the handle of the bow. It should go right in front of the thumb and right behind these 3 fingers. Just to help you see it a little more clearly, we can erase the inside of that handle. Now you see how this arrow sits right on top of that finger. And connects all the way to underneath that finger. All right. Now you see what I mean, where the details or the lines start to overlap each other more and more. And so that can be tricky. And so it's a good challenge to try for some of you. And erasing as you go might help you keep straight what's what. Now let's do my favorite part, which is the face. So I'm going to put one eye right here, actually right behind that the string on the bow, but you might not, the string where you put your string, it might not line up to where it's right in front of the eye. So that's okay. It doesn't need to. As long as this eye is on the left side, the top left side of that face. And then we're going to do this about right in the middle of the face because the head is turned to the left. And now for the mouth. Let's see. I think I need to drop that down a little further. Toad's mouth isn't quite so high. He's got a little more space between his eyes and his mouth. That looks better. We could put a little tongue in there. All right. And there is Toad. What else can I add? We could add some little wrinkles there. Oh, we need the sleeves. The sleeves will be really helpful. These will make it look even cooler, add a little more depth, a little more 3D. This is optional though. You could keep it as you have it. We're gonna make this look a little 3D next, but if you like it just the way it is, you keep it like this, just put the big spots on his hat, and then you could keep it in pencil, or even better, if you color it. Now, so if you'd like to continue by putting these big sleeves on him, then we're gonna drop this down, and it's like this curvy bean shape, long bean, sort of squishy oval shape that wraps around, it goes down, it wraps around, and connects just smoothly to the top of that arm there. And then we're going to just connect over top of that and connect at the bottom. And then put a little curve there. And so then all of this, let's put one curve on the inside, and then all of this could be shaded in. So it's like the inside of his sleeve. And then we could do the same thing over here. Just raise that sleeve just above the arm a tiny bit. This curves around and down. That's the shaded part. And then we'll just connect this up here. I'm going to try to create a little more space between the toga, the bottom of the toga, and the arm. And so if you need to adjust those to move the sleeve up or this toga back, then do that, because if the lines start to get too close or touch, then it's not as, it doesn't look as good because it's harder to see what's going on exactly. Now I wrapped a sleeve on top of the arm, and so now I need to erase that part of the arm because it's not a see-through sleeve anymore, is it? Now what I'm going to do is here at the bottom, I'm actually going to just curve this up without touching the edge. So it adds a little thickness to the sleeve, makes it look a little more 3D. Then I'm going to put some little, like, Toad is just flying up. And so little hearts below. And then now's where we're going to want to smooth out our shapes and our lines if they weren't real smooth in the beginning. So I think I can get this circle a little more even. Yours might already be exactly how you want it. And then we're going to put some of those big red spots. This is like a squished oval that just smoothly connects to the edge. And this one is a big circle, mostly in the middle. And then I think you might be able to see a little bit of the red on this side. He's turned, so we don't see very much, but you might get one little curved line there where you'll see. In fact, I think it might even look better at this angle if it's mostly a straight line. So we just are going to see a little bit of that red spot on the left. Feel free to put any effects or any hearts. Have them sort of flying this direction. Any effects or any hearts that you like. Sort of spacing mine out a little bit. The bigger ones at the top and smaller ones at the bottom will create a little more of a 3D look because it's like he flew from the back forward. And so things that get closer are bigger. Let's actually make this one a little smaller and this one a little bigger. So it's actually not just random. I'm actually thinking about the size, going from big, medium, and then small. And so it's like he's coming close and up. And there is Toad as Cupid. Now we can look for any adjustments that you might need to make. I think I can add a little line there. Mine was looking a little weird. I think it should be a little thicker. I'm going to bring this, connect it to the edge of the sleeve. You just look for any adjustments, anything that doesn't look right to you, you can fix it. Yours is going to look different than mine, which is a good thing. It's a good thing we're not all the same artists. Feel free to customize yours, to ink it, color it, shade it in pencil, or whatever you want with it. You might draw who Toad is shooting with the arrow. You might turn this into a Valentine's Day card, whatever you like. Can't wait to see how yours turns out. I'm going to ink it and color it. You could do that along with me, or totally go your own way with your own colors. I would love to see that too. Enjoy! Can't wait to see how yours turned out. Be sure to share it with me. Now that I've colored the basic flats, or the base colors, the red, the brown, the pink, now I'm going to add some shading. Now, you could add shading with a light gray color, even a light purple, or light browns. What I love to do is add shading with light blue colors. It's a really great color for shadows. And so I have 3. And if you want to try this method, I recommend 3 as well. But it works really well with alcohol markers. But it could also work with color pencils, maybe even crayons or other types of markers. But it works best with alcohol markers. That's my light blue. Next is a medium blue. And this is what I recommend you get. 3 different shades of light blue. Well, light, medium, and then darker. So this isn't super dark, but it's about as dark as I'm going. And look, they're all sort of similar tones. So what would not work would be a blue that's like a neon blue, like that, or a really bright blue. Well, that one doesn't even have ink in it, so that definitely wouldn't work. A bright blue like this, or even more of a greenish blue. Those are just so different and so bright. These definitely wouldn't work. Well, this wouldn't work. These could, because they're sort of close. Okay? So the closer you can get them to each other, the better it's going to work. Because with alcohol markers, what you can do is lay down the light color first. And then on top of that, on part of that, you can do the medium blue. And always check to make sure it's not bleeding through the other side onto your art. Better to move that away. Then, so I did my light and medium, and then I can go to my dark. And look how that blends. Now if I go back to my lightest blue, and even blend that edge some more, look at how that blends from dark to light. And so that's what I'm going to be doing to get a really cool 3D look. So first, I'm going to get my light blue, and I always start lighter. And I'm going to imagine that the light is shining on Cupid from this direction. So this would be where the sun might be. That means that everything on the bottom and on the left side is going to be in shadow because the light is shining this direction. So the opposite direction is where the shadows will be. So I'm going to put a big blue shadow with my light blue to start on the left side of the face. Now you can see, you might be able to see a little bit of red mixed in, and that's because I dipped into this before it's completely dry, and you can blend colors together with alcohol markers. That's a cool thing when you're trying to create nice blended realistic shading. It's a bad thing if you don't want that red to mix into the white, which I don't. So let's see if I can sort of blend it out by covering it up a little bit more. And we'll curve up this edge a little bit. And there's a little bit of red mixed in there, but it's not a problem at all. So lots of times what you'll notice is most people don't notice your mistakes unless you point them out. You notice them because you pay so close attention as you're making them. But most people, you show your art to them, they won't even notice those mistakes. So now I'm sort of going into the darker area and flicking up. This is called feathering, when you press down harder and then you flick up. And look at how the left is dark and the right side is lighter. So that's starting to get a nice shadow look. Now I still want this to blend. Instead of just suddenly stop and turn white, I want it to blend a little better. So this is where colors like super, if you have an even lighter blue or even light, super light gray might be able to work, or something called a colorless blender, which comes with alcohol markers sets sometimes, is great for blending anything into white areas. So if you just go over that edge, I'm staying out of the red because I don't want to get that red everywhere. And you can see that sort of blended it in a little more. That was all with just a light blue, and I'm sort of going in a crescent moon shape, okay? Because I'm covering the bottom and the left side of his head. Now I'm going to go to my medium blue. This medium blue, because that so far was my light blue, and add a little darker. Just along the bottom. And you can see it's a little darker. And now I'm going to go even darker to my dark blue and go just along the base and behind the head. And I'm even going to go into the red. And get that darker edge. And then you can come back to your medium blue and do that flick method, or the feather method I mentioned, to sort of blend that in even better. So now look at that dark shadow. All right, now I'm going to bring that even a little darker out to the edge there. See, the reds that were mixed in there, you can hardly see them now. So when you make mistakes, don't panic. First of all, it's just a drawing. It's not the end of the world. You can always start over. And if it's the only drawing you're going to work on in your life, it's a big deal and you might be upset. But an artist works on art every week, if not every day. And so you shouldn't be afraid of ruining one piece of art, because you know that there's going to be thousands of others you're going to make. The other thing is, you can always do what I did and try to see if you can do things to cover it up or to turn it into something else. So I was mostly able to cover up little red specks that I didn't want there with just by covering it in shadows. Now I'm putting shadows in here in the sleeve. That was with my medium blue, but now I'm going to go even darker. So always start lighter and then go darker on top, because once you put dark ink on top, you can't really get it off. So it's better to start lighter than you think you might need to, and then go darker from there. So I'm doing the feather technique. Again, the feather technique is this: press hard and then sort of flick like that. And that goes dark to light with just one color, with one marker. So there are 3 ways, just so you know, to go from dark to light with your markers. One is simply by going over it again. So see how light it is? Now I'm going to go over with another layer, and it gets darker. I can do it again, and it gets even darker. Keep doing that, and you can go darker and darker. Now, the other way is to get a darker marker. So if this is my light color, then I can just go darker on top of it with a darker marker, of course. And when you then go on that edge with your light color, go back to your light color to go over that edge, you can see it's blended in a little better. And that's what is responsible for a really cool 3D cartoon effect. Then So we have two ways so far. More layers makes it darker. Put a darker color on top, makes it darker. Another way is that flick method to go from dark to light. If you press hard, it's dark. You don't have to press it that long, just quickly. And you can see it goes from dark to light. So let's add some shadow down here. The little toga is hanging over the shoes, so we wouldn't see light on the top of that. But also, just like the head, this egg shape, we have almost like a crescent moon shape where it just the shadow disappears along the edge as we get closer to the light, which is in the top left. That was with the dark blue. I just started with the dark blue because I knew that brown was dark already, so to get it to show up, I was going to have to do a darker blue. Then I can blend that in with the feather technique with my medium blue. That looks good. Now, one thing you can do is also go back to get it to blend even better. Go back to the base color, or it's often called the flat color, brown in this case. And add another layer on top, and that really blends all that in real nice. Then maybe you say, oh, I actually can't see the dark shadows as much. Maybe you like it the way it is, but you can always go back and darken the dark shadows if they sort of disappeared. So that's what's so great with alcohol markers. You can go back and forth, dark and light, dark and light. Now I'm going to go to my lightest blue I have, which is what you want to do when you're shading on white colors, which is what I'm doing next. I'm going to shade the outfit, the wrinkles, because there's a little indentation where wrinkles are. And those prevent light from getting in there. Okay, so that side, underneath his arm hangs over and would block some of the light. Then I'm going to do the flick method with my light blue like this. And I'm even going to do the top because this is like a cylinder shape. And when the light hits a cylinder, it rounds out, it comes out, right? It's got 3D depth to it. And so this is rounded out. And so the light, if the light's over here, then it's this part that's closest to the light because it comes forward. That sleeve wraps around his arm. So that's why there's a little bit of shadow on the top of that. Same here. Now, this cap would block some light from getting there. This is, again, with my lightest blue. We want a super, super light blue. And if you don't have a alcohol marker, that might not be able to layer on top in the same way. If you're not sure, you can always try it on a separate sheet of paper with your own supplies to see how it looks first. That way you don't have to worry about ruining anything. See what the colors see how the colors blend on a separate sheet first. Now I'm just going along the left and the bottom side of these feathers to add a little shadow as well. And I'm going to put a little shadow on the edge of this heart arrowhead. Even on these. Come back with a darker blue just for that edge. Maybe some of these. This is my medium blue. And I think this arm would block some light from hitting back there. So put a big shadow in there. And the body blocks the light from getting right behind him. And so that's going to be a darker blue behind the arm. Under the fingers, you'd have a little shadow. Maybe on the left side of the bow if you can fit that in there, but that's not that important because it's so tiny. Bottom of the fingers perhaps. Sleeve casts a shadow right there onto that arm. And I did my light blue shadow on those feathers, and now I'm just going along the very bottom edge with my medium blue. And see, that creates sort of a cool 3D look there. Now I'm looking to see if there's any other improvements I can make. I think I can bring this shadow up a little higher. This is my light blue. And I'm going to even go, see, a light blue wouldn't show up in that red, I can tell. So I'm going to go to my medium blue and go into that red, see if it'll show up. I don't think it will, but that's okay. Let's go to my light blue and add a little more. Bring the shadow. This only works if you have a super, super light blue. Because otherwise it's just going to mess up the face by going over it too much. And now I can blend this in by going to the skin color that I had for Toad and going in these rounded motions. And I think I could even increase the shadow even more with the dark blue right there. Now, I've added all my shading, and there's one more step to really make this look real cool in 3D. Well, almost done with my shading. Let's put a blue right there and darken those a little bit. I think I'm going to go to my dark blue for this edge. All right, now the last step after my shading to make it look real 3D is the highlights. Now you can make some really cool highlights with a white color pencil, not all types, but something like a Prismacolor, which is a little fancier type of white color pencil. A white charcoal pencil works really, really well, or a white jelly roll or gel pen, or a white Posca pen. In other words, anything that gets you real thin white ink or real thin white paint like a paint marker. So what I'm going to do is you could choose any of these options. I like the white charcoal because you can sort of blend it to get it a little lighter and with your finger, and you can push harder to get it darker. So here's where I'm going to put these. The areas closer to the light, which we said was in that top right corner. So for example, we could just start down here on these little hearts and put little shiny white spots in the top right. Not very visible, doesn't make a big difference there because they're so small. But let's see if I go over to my white gel pen, if I can make these stand out a little brighter, a little bit. So this will make the brightest highlights. And really, any of these would work fine. I'm going to use my charcoal here. Here's what I mean how you could smudge it. See, that sort of lightened it a little bit, but if I want to go and then... So here's a method that works really well. Find out where the highlights are. In this case, if this is a round sphere, think about how it comes out like a ball. And so this is going to be the part closest to that light. So it's going to be catching the most light. And so it's going to be brighter. So I've got this real light and soft, and I smudge it to make it even softer, and then right in the middle of that, press hard to get a brighter light. And that looks really 3D. Now you want to do your highlights before they go into shadows. You don't want these going into the shadows because that wouldn't make sense. Shadows are where there isn't light. Now another spot would be here. Now I don't think this charcoal is going to show up too well. It actually shows up okay. But if I go to my gel pen, it's probably going to be even brighter. And it sort of shines just a little bit. I'm going to do little highlights here in the eyes. Also sort of shows us the direction he's looking. There in the heart. Where else would be some good spots? Maybe there. Now, this area is going to have some highlights. This is like a sphere. Light's shining this direction. So the area that's going to catch most of the light is going to be right here in this area. Now, it's not going to show up in the white area, of course, but I start there just so I get a smooth sort of runway into very soft highlight here in that red spot. Okay, so see how that sort of makes it shine a little more. I could even go on top of that with this, which is going to make it a little darker. Oh, let me try with this one. Because I blended it, it actually turned it more orange. But if I don't blend it, that looks really shiny, right? That's maybe a little too shiny. So let me blend it a little, but not quite that much. And by blend, I mean just with your finger. And that's really bright now. Maybe a little too bright. Maybe you like it. Looks really shiny. I sort of like it. I'm going to make it go more from really bright to less and less bright as it sort of starts to blend real soft until it just disappears. So just putting it in the general area will be good enough. Again, it's sort of sticking out at that as orange because that had so much red ink there, it's not quite dry. So let's see. That looks better. So look at that shiny red spot. And now I'm just going to extend this real soft by pressing real soft, not hard, all the way down. If you don't have a white charcoal pencil or a white color pencil and all you have is a white gel pen, I'd probably just keep a soft little spot right up there. Instead of trying to smudge out all the way down. It is still sticking out. I don't like it. And every time I make some art, there's little tiny parts that I might not like. But overall, I love it. And so every artist gets used to learning to develop resilience. Ooh, now that looks good. All right, I like how that turned out. All right, so I stuck with it. I didn't give up, and now I like how that really shines. So remember, don't give up on your art. Keep trying new things. See if you can turn it into something else. Or if you feel like you've ruined it, just remember, guess what? I'm making art tomorrow, and I'm going to make art the rest of my life. So I'm going to make thousands of pieces, and this is just one. All right, you might try to put a little bright white over here. I wouldn't do it with a gel pen unless you just do a tiny spot. But if you got a white color pencil or a white charcoal pencil, you could try that. I went into the black a little bit. Not sure if you can tell, but you can always come back at the end of your work and crisp up those black outlines with your black marker. All right, so there is my toad Cupid. I might try some. That didn't really show up. There we go. All right, there's my toad Cupid. I hope you enjoyed learning how to use your alcohol markers. Would love to see how yours turns out as well. Thanks for joining me.